Monday, and for those of you in Florida and New York and California, happy Monday Night Football. You will be able to see it. A deal has been done between Charter and Disney, and the blackout, which caused most of you to not be able to see some really very good college football over the weekend, has ended. And it ended about 2 hours ago. Disney and Charter reached an agreement. Here's we'll touch on the highlights to you. Disney and Charter have reached a deal to end the historic carriage dispute just in time for Monday Night Football, which will be on ESPN and ABC tonight. Both Disney and Charter shares climbed 2% following the report, which was first reported by the Wall Street Journal and then, of course, by CNBC. As part of the deal, Disney Plus, a basic ad-supported offering, will be provided to Charter customers who purchase the Spectrum TV Select package at no additional cost as part of a wholesale agreement. Additionally, ESPN Plus will be provided to Spectrum's Select Plus subscribers at no additional cost. The ESPN flagship direct-to-consumer service will also be made available at no extra cost to Spectrum Select subscribers when it launches, which will be obviously approximately 2 years down the line. Now, Charter had pushed for the service to be available for free to its customers, a key sticking point in negotiations. A stalemate between the two companies over the issue led to Disney pulling all of its operated channels, including ESPN and ABC, off Charter and Spectrum since late August. In a joint statement, Disney CEO Bob Iger and Charter CEO Chris Whitney says that the deal recognizes both the continued value of linear television while the growing popularity of streaming services, and while it addresses the evolving needs of every customer. The blackout had impacted, by the way, an entire profile of sporting events over the weekend, according to including, of course, the U.S. Open, both men's and women's finals, the NFL's debut, of course, and a number, as I said before, of some very good football games on the college side. So basically, at the end of the day, is there a winner? Is there a loser? There are actually a winner for both in this deal. And the winner, as we see it here, from a standpoint of why did both people come out of this as winners? Basically, Disney got Charter to place their platforms on Charter's highest level tiers, so their highest paying customers will have the opportunity to stream Disney's content at that point. Okay, so at the end of the day, that was a big sticking point for them. Disney also wants that linear money, which they get from Charter. So Charter's paying freight, which is good, keeping them on point, and at the same time listed among all of the regular regular offerings on Charter. I'm sorry, which is Spectrum cable. For those who pay the premium, and we're talking now about the big spenders who have the highest highest packages. We're talking upwards of $250 a month in those packages. You will have access to the Disney Plus content, and of course, and ESPN Plus content. And then when the time comes, the entire ESPN catalog. So it is a win-win. It is basically a little bit, obviously, of what both sides wanted, and so both sides get it, and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So from that standpoint, we're happy for them that they got it done. Those of you who tonight wanted desperately to see the Jets with Aaron Rodgers open up against the Buffalo Bills, you're going to get it, which is good to hear. What you did miss is you missed Alabama, getting beat by Texas. in what was a wild game. You missed Dion being Dion. Different win, different way. There was a shootout at Texas with Texas, TCU last time. Not so much. Ralphie was in full reign, and the Buffaloes rolled, and they played Nebraska, who had a great defense, no offense at all, but a great defense. And the two teams played, basically smash mouth football for a while. They were open. They meaning Sador, Sanders, and Colorado were basically opened the offense a little bit and hit a couple of big plays and were able to win the ball game. And was closer to, as they say, like a slugfest than a shootout, which proved that they could win on playing both styles, which is a very impressive thing. Now they have to play Colorado State, and that'll be coming up. But 2 consecutive big, noon contests on Fox for Colorado. Great exposure for Colorado. Ratings-wise, they did, well. We won't have those ratings until later today, and of course, I'll share them with you whenever we get them. I think, pretty much so, that the Texas-Alabama game probably, when it's all said and done, will have outrated it. So, outrated the Colorado game. Now, look, I have many friends at NBC. I love NBC. You guys know it. Love you. You're all great people. What in the world are you doing, with the dogs you were giving us for your primetime Saturday night Big Ten games? I mean, seriously. We got Charlotte and Maryland this week. I mean, that's just, come on, guys. That's not even a big game on. That should have been on the Big Ten Network. Okay. Look, I know this whole process is new, and we're going to get games that are going to be interesting. But look, a primetime game on NBC of Charlotte versus Maryland on NBC. On ABC, we got the game, which, as I said before, Texas and Alabama, and over on Fox, we got Texas Tech and Oregon. Okay, so I mean, of the 3 games, there's not even a contest. You're going to watch the Texas Alabama game, and probably go back and forth just because that the Texas Tech game. Texas Tech and Oregon game is also going to be interesting. So seriously, that was a big, interesting mess. Kudos to Fox. They had 3 games in a row. They had the Colorado game, Nebraska game. They followed that one up with the, as I said before, the Oklahoma. Not Oklahoma. The Oregon and Texas Tech game, and then they had a nightcap game, which was a bit of a blowout, but it was Caleb Williams and USC playing against Stanford, which is a rivalry game. So Fox gave us 3 good games all day long, and we had a bizarre situation with NBC giving us Charlotte and Maryland. But look, I'm sure by the end of the season it will all average out at the end of the day. But it's going to be an interesting situation for sure. U.S. Open tennis was compelling, of course. Coco Gauff winning the women's side of the draw in the championship over Azarenka. It was compelling television. Was good. Well done by ESPN. Novak Djokovic winning his 24th title, which ties him for the most ever. That was covered very well. So if you're a tennis fan, you had 2 really good finals this weekend. So kudos on that. Baseball sneaking up on us here, gang. We have a really crazy week this week, and Circle Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, as a matter of fact. Showdown in the East. The Tampa Bay Rays will be in Charm City in Baltimore. Game will be covered Thursday night in a very special primetime edition of Thursday Night Baseball on Fox. So the Rays and the Orioles, the two teams that have for the entire season been 1-2 in the East, are facing each other for first place. So the battle, for the AL East will be done. We'll get to see it on Fox this week. Kudos, by the way, to a longtime friend and truly nice guy, Kenny Albert. Kenny has been with Fox now for 30 years. Now, when Fox started the NFL 30 years ago, and this is something that you can read in Awful Announcing, which I strongly suggest you do. Great publication. They went ahead and they got Joe Buck, obviously the son of a great broadcaster, Jack Buck, Chip Carey, Skip Carey's son, and Kenny Albert, of course, Marv Albert's son, and Marty Brennaman's son Tom were 24 at the time. They also went ahead and hired a guy, Kevin Harlan, who was a little older, Kevin 34, 35 at the time. And then they had, of course, Pat Summerall and John Madden, and they had Dick Stockton and Moose Johnson. And so at that point in time, those were the guys that were doing the pros, the NFL. And of course, Joe Buck and Kenny and Stockton did baseball as well for them. Kenny's the only member of that team still with Fox 30 years, after the fact. But all of them, we know Joe Buck, of course, is now. He'll be calling tonight's Monday night game with Troy Aikman. Certainly, Tommy Brennaman for many years stayed with the company and went to the Cincinnati Reds. Chip Carey for years, the Braves broadcaster. And as I said, and of course, we all know Kevin. Kevin has become really the number one play-by-play guy for the NBA on Turner. So they've all gone on to bigger and better things, and it is worth mentioning that Fox has had the NFL changed the entire landscape of how television was watched, and even changed some of Fox affiliates from across the country. It was a seismic change when Fox took the NFL away from CBS at the time, and it really did have quite the impact. So, something to think about. We're talking a little bit more about it. We're going to have guests this week, throughout the week, and we're going to talk about a number of different things. Today is, of course, Monday. It is the September 11th. Now, I remember I was in Washington, D.C. During that time. It was an amazing and tragic day. Many friends in New York. And it was just a day that's hard to even explain. We're setting up for our usual television situation where we did a show called Outside the Lines, which started at 7 o'clock. 6 o'clock on what used to be the Comcast network. And then we did a show at 11. And so we were, I was getting ready to go out to talk to, to go to the studio to get going and going from that standpoint. But, once that started, once the planes hit the towers, then hit in DC where we were at the Pentagon, we were in lockdown. I was in a building, condominium building, which I lived in at the time, with a number of diplomats who lived in the area. And it was not only lockdown, we had security literally with guns in the building. It was an eerie and scary and bizarre time. But what was even more bizarre was after the fact, going and actually doing a week or so later our first show. And I remember going to our studio on near Capitol Hill, and remember not seeing many cars. It was very quiet, which was very, bizarre from the standpoint of, New York and Washington are 24-hour cities. You can't go anywhere in either of those cities at 2 o'clock in the morning and not have a lot of even street traffic, people just walking along the streets, going from one place to the other. That was not the case. It was quiet. It was very, reserved. And as I went to our Capitol Hill offices, where, we did the 11 o'clock show, it just was surreal for weeks till people got back into it. But we've all moved on, and we mourn those people who lost their lives on September 11th, whether it was in New York City or Washington, D.C., or Shanksville, Pennsylvania. We should take a moment today, when you get some time, just to reflect on the fact that how lucky we are that we survived, that we go on, and that we never forget the fact that those people lost their lives in a terrorist attack, but it didn't, deter what we do. So there's your political aspect for the day. I hope everyone takes time and appreciates the lives of those folks who lost their lives September 11th, 23 years ago. So, all right, let's, from the serious and very important to the less important, and that is what's going on here. And that is, okay. Some talk here. Timothy Hyde, what you got for me, Timmy? 4 of the Pac-12 teams are going to the Big Ten next year, and 2 to the Big 12 next year. Actually, that's not true. That'd be 4 to the Big Ten, and 4 to the Big 12, and 2 to the ACC. So yeah, the Pac-12, there's no question. The Pac-12 has 8 teams in the most recent AP poll. They have the number 5 ranked Washington Huskies, 8th ranked Oregon, 12th ranked Utah. It just, Oregon State's 13. I mean, they're loaded, and which just makes you sad that that they couldn't get a deal done. It's just, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We've got some, I guess, coming up tomorrow. Talk a little bit about that. So we'll see. Stanford was so desperate to leave the Pac-4 that to the ACC do the same reason. The leadership in charge did not want to blame that Stanford loses the Power 5 status when they are in charge. They never were in charge, Bill. Sorry to let you know that, but Stanford wasn't in charge of the Pac-4. There wasn't really there was a Pac-4, but there never was an honest effort tried for by Stanford or Cal to reinvent the Pac as a conference. So that wasn't even a thing. So I know it was out there as a thing, but it really never was. The rebranding of the Mountain West, I don't see that happening. I mean, the reverse merger. I understand about the name deal, that it might very well be something that they are able to do, kind of like the Big East did with the American. I guess it's something to keep the Pac name alive, which could be valuable to folks out there. Gloria Navarro, who is the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference, has said she's willing to talk about it. There's a long way to go about that. There'll be negotiations between Mountain, between the Mountain West and the folks at Oregon State and Washington State. We'll see how all that plays out. But for right now, I don't think that that's going to be too much of a big deal. I think there's just going to be a lot of talking between now and then, but at the end of the day, this whole thing has to get done so that the Mountain West and those two schools can get on with their lives at this point in time. Let's see what else we got here. All right. Let's see. We've got a question from Tom J. He would say he would do conference alignment, and that would be UCLA, Auburn. Let's see, UCLA, Washington, Minnesota, Illinois, Purdue, Nebraska, Indiana, Northwestern, Maryland, Georgia Tech, NC State, Stanford, California, Wake Forest, Boston College, Louisville, Syracuse, Pittsburgh. The other bracket would be Auburn, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Iowa State, West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, Colorado, Arizona State, BYU, and Oregon State. Now, this is his new pro rata ACC. I don't understand this, frankly, Tom, because some of the teams you have in your new ACC are in the Big Ten. Some of them, a lot of them are in the Big Ten. Some of them are in the ACC for sure. Some of them are in the SEC. So I God love you. I don't know how that's going. All right, JT Sports Masters. Greatly appreciate being on your list for following on Twitter. That's very nice. I appreciate it. Nice for you to do that. Okay, big win for the U. Yeah, it was a big win. Both U's, Utah winning and University of Miami getting that. That was a signature win over Texas A&M team. It didn't look there for a while like they were going to do it, but they pulled it off at the end and ended up going in the right direction. Big now Alabama, who got beat by Texas, and we said in that primetime game, is going to be playing another big TV game against USF. So this week for my as a fan of USF, that's going to be a very interesting game to be sure. To have a full house down at Raymond James Stadium, and we'll see how that goes. Now, yesterday, of course, was the first full day of NFL on football on the networks, and CBS and Fox did a very good job of coverage of the games. Watched as much of the Red Zone too as I could. Shout out to the gang at the Red Zone for doing an outstanding job. It's not an easy job to do, and they do it very, very well. I will say that I thought the coverage was, for the most part, both Fox and and CBS did their usual outstanding job. I felt badly for the guys doing, Tirico and Collinsworth doing last night's game, the Sunday night game, because I can't tell you folks how hard it is to do a game that when it's one-sided, and it was one-sided early. So the Dallas Cowboys were just all over the Giants, and it's really tough to do a game like that. And I give full marks to announcing crew of Tirico and Collingsworth for hanging in there because, man, it's just, when one team is dominating the other in such an amazing way as Dallas was last night, and the Giants just were, nothing was going right for the Giants. I mean, absolutely nothing. And it was raining, and it was just a dreary situation. And good on Tirico and Collingsworth for sitting in there and really doing a yeoman's job, because it is tough to call a football game and produce and direct a football game when one side is just blowing up the other one. And that was tough. And that's why they get paid the big bucks. Those guys did a really awesome job, and good on them for staying in there and doing it right. Let's take a quick look and see what we've got here in the way of any questions from the Twitter sphere. That's okay. Let's go back over here. And okay. All right, Jags, in the AFC Championship game, wouldn't surprise me at all. Oh no, the Jags, went up to Indianapolis and won that game and played well. I will say this, for those of you who watched the Chargers game against the Dolphins, that was a very entertaining game, and kudos to CBS for doing a really, really good job on that game as well. They really had that was a back and forth game. It might have been one of the most entertaining games of the day, and CBS. When you got that entertaining game and you can just, it's converse to what I just said about Collingsworth and Mike Tirico having the dog game. But this one was a good one. It was played at SoFi. You had two teams with two very good young quarterbacks in Tua and in Justin Herbert, and the irony of them being chosen just literally one, spot apart in the same draft was good to see. Tyreek Hill, to see Waddle, to see those guys who can just, streak and just run like the wind. And I mean, at the end of the day, it was the speed of the speed of that offense that just torched the Chargers. And it's a pretty decent Charger team. That's not a bad Charger team. So we'll see how that's going to go for the year. But that's it. Jimmy G doing some fun stuff for the Raiders. I mean, it looks like the Raiders are going to have a good season as well. It's good to see. Good to see that dominant performance by the 49ers. My goodness, watched a little bit of that game. Again, that was an Eagles game. That was a shutout against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. So it's a toughie, and they pulled through that one. So good game for the 49ers. In yesterday's game as well. So a lot of good stuff here. Let's see quick. Our buddy, the Utah Pig Bus, says, thanks. It took us a minute because Baylor was super motivated, but we pulled it out in the end with some, gritty football. Absolutely. That was a good game. And it was, you kind of saw that coming because in watching the game, ABC did a good job of covering that game. You kind of felt that Baylor, they had been embarrassed the week before. And Dave Aranda was not going to be embarrassed a second time. And they did play gritty football. You're absolutely right, Utah. Things didn't go as smooth for them as it did when they played Florida. And you kind of could see that happening and coming soon. So it was a tough, a tough game, but they pulled it out, and it was, Baylor played. You expected Baylor to be motivated and not want to lose that game, and they played as hard as they could. And at the end of the day, the better team won, but they didn't. This time Baylor just put up a heck of a fight. So yeah, Utah, it was a good game. And things are going to get tougher for everybody now. Boise State is 0-2. Yeah, that was, they lost. That was a game again, an exciting game. That was UCF beat Boise State. That game was entertaining. UCF wins it on the Smurf turf with a field goal at the buzzer. So tough. Let's see what we got here. Going down. Petrino lost years ago. See, a lot of expansion talk, and we're just looking for. Okay, kudos to Jeff Fuller of ESPN 960. Jeff is a good guy. Jeff does a wonderful job, so as does ESPN 960, for being honest as well as referenced in references in the Pac-12 and the Big 12 conferences. Worth a read by all means. Everyone wants to say the SEC is a dominant conference. However, last week we see the Pac-12, the ACC gets wins over SEC teams. Now we see the two FSC A teams in the AAC and a group of 5 teams all got a shot to win. 4 teams down in the 3 p.m. window. Kentucky in that, Miami beat Kentucky. What do you got? Western Kentucky and Kentucky. Yeah, but they didn't lose. That's the problem. I mean, John, you can't put a score up there of a game in the first quarter or the second quarter and say, well, look, they're ahead now. They, oh yeah, they lost, but at the end of the day, they were ahead. Well, yeah, I mean, they were down in the first quarter, but they ended up winning. So I mean, that's kind of a hollow argument, but man, the end of look. Was Texas A&M up on Miami 17-14 with 11:06 in the second? Yes. Did they win the game? No, but they got blown out. So I'm not so sure there. Tulane, Mississippi. Now that was a close game. In fairness, yes, that was a close game. Tulane was ahead at the half. Tulane, look, at the end of the day, Mississippi just had the deeper and better team. Okay, Tulane played them as hard as you could play them, and God love them, they gave them all they got. Kent State, down by a point, 7-6, with 6:29 in the second. Yeah, it was a close game, but then Arkansas, ran away with it. I mean, yeah, you can find places in the game when they're close, but man, come on, dude, you know better than that. I mean, at the end of the day, the final score was the final score. All right, fair enough. Here we go. Larry Pilgrim, how you doing? Good to see you, my man. Really just crazy how things went down. But I'm old enough to remember when BE turned down the Penn State job, Bobby, okay, because they were hated out. They were. Okay, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. I apologize. Larry, it's really crazy how things went down. But I'm old enough to remember that when the Big East turned down Penn State because they hated to be out recruited by Joe Pa in the New York City region, they thought college football was not their future. Well, that was true. Okay, the Big East in 1979, when it was established, actually did invite Penn State to be in the conference. Okay, so that part was there. Penn State was there was never concern about the Penn State basketball team because at that point in time, Joe Pa was, basically kept the basketball team from really Um, it had to be football at Penn State. Basketball was a secondary situation, and that's why they thought Penn State would want to join. Penn State thought about joining, and then Penn State declined. So they were offered the opportunity to join the Big East, Larry. They turned it down because Penn State chose to go. He was afraid. Joe Pa was afraid that they would start investing more in basketball. Not that they would in football, but he ran the athletic department at Penn State at that time, and almost all the way through to the end. So, Penn State to the Big East. I mean, they did invite them. There's no question that they did, but Penn State turned them down. All right, let's go moving right on. Savannah, how you doing? Okay. She also thinks that Penn State should have joined the Big East at the time. Perhaps they should have. They ended up in the Big Ten. The rest is history. Pitt and Penn State could have been in the same conference together at the Big East, but that was not to be. And so, what are you going to do, right? All right. We got time for a couple more. Let's see what we can have. I know I'm originally from Pennsylvania, so I heard the stories of how the Big East did us wrong, but we did well by going to the Big Ten. Yeah, I mean, you did. You absolutely did. Should have gone there. Okay, Ben King, what do you got? Everybody's on this. For some reason, you guys are on the Penn State Big East thing, man, because in the Wayback Machine today. Okay. I in no way disagree with how terrible the Pac-12 leadership has been for a long time. This is Benjamin King asking a question. Not any San Diego State and SMU, when they knew that they were going to need them, showed a huge part about how bad they were. I think that they thought that they could get $50 million a team until the very end, and that's what did them in. Ben, I mean, did they overestimate what they could get? Yes. Did they have terrible leadership? Yes. At the end of the day, leadership, it really boiled down to the presidents. And they really didn't, the presidents in the Pac-12 really didn't understand how this whole television situation worked. They never did. They screwed up with Larry Scott. They screwed up with George Kudakov. And at the end of the day, it's, I've said at the end of the day a lot today. Sorry about that, folks. The key to the death of the Pac-12 began about 10 years ago, but it could have been stopped any time along that way had they had good leadership, and they didn't. And then the presidents just didn't trust each other at the end. So it was just a total, I mean, it's sad. It is very sad how it ended, especially when we're seeing that 8 of their teams are in the top 10, and they were the most entertaining games this weekend in college football was the Pac-12 games. So, there you go. It's okay. Let's see what else is going on. Yeah, Washington and Oregon State are taking legal action against the Pac-12. They are. They're just that basically is just to see if they can, get the name and also make sure that all the debts are gone and they will get their money out of it, because there's money to be had that's still on the table. So we don't want that to be a problem. All right. So basically, gang, let's see. The deal is done with Charter and Disney. Yay. I get to see the football game tonight. Boy, you do. And so tonight, ESPN ABC, the game will be called by Joe Buck. Troy Aikman, and it'll be Aaron Rodgers in number 12 in a green jersey. However, it'll be the Jets green. So Delvin Cook, by the way, playing for the Jets. That was a big ad. So a lot of entertaining stuff from that standpoint. By all means, enjoy the games. I know that many of you have been without your ESPN for a while. Relish in the fact it's back. Enjoy Scott Van Pelt. SVP is a good dude. He'll be on the show later down the road. Chatted with him the other day. So Scott Van Pelt will be with us down the road here. He will be in his new role, running the show prior to the kickoff of tonight's game on ESPN. Hope that everybody out there has had their opportunity to see those games this past weekend. We'll have those ratings for you tomorrow. That ought to be fun. Spencer McLaughlin will join us tomorrow. Spencer is the voice of Southern Utah. He is also the host of Lockdown Pac-12, and he's a friend, somebody who we're going to sit down and talk with about television. And we've got, it's kind of funny doing television and doing radio when you're, not one of the big teams, but you play the big teams. And it's a very tough job to do. Spence does it very good. He's a very fine young play-by-play guy, and he's going to be. You're going to see him move up that ranks pretty quick. He's got the talent, got a great sense of humor. I know that anybody who's watched, I personally have enjoyed his Pac-12 shows. They're very entertaining, and so looking forward to having Spencer as a guest tomorrow. So Spencer McLaughlin tomorrow on the show. He and I are going to get together. We're going to talk a little shop, and we want you to talk with us, okay? All right, gang. Look, have a wonderful day. And as I said, we'll have those ratings for you tomorrow. Alabama and Texas, that rating, I'm sure, is going to be a monster. Dion got his ratings at noon on the big noon. And we'll see and we'll compare all the stuff for what happened. And also coming soon will be some guests talking on pretty much every television subject you can imagine and every sport that you can imagine. So, give us a look. Check us out. As I should have hit the old button, it says subscribe, hit the bell, and and be part of our fun family here. Okay, guys? Enjoyed it very much. Hope you did as well. Take care. We'll be back again tomorrow at 10 a.m. and again at 2 o'clock. So have fun, and we shall see you tomorrow. Okay? Until that time, I'm Jim Williams. This is Stream On.